everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Good evening. As I said, we are currently in session. Our first action is to get our agenda in order. Are there any items that anybody would like to pull?
Oh, you know what? I had one.
Okay.
I think I had one.
Are there any you want me to pull?
How did we
The
do the
agenda item?
resolution?
So you want to pull that?
Until
for
after,
discussion.
until after the presentation.
Okay.
Yep.
There was something about,
Did you want donations, folks?
It's separate anyway.
Okay.
I might have made a mistake, and I thought there was something where, on the personnel, where we again were appointing after the person had already started. I want to make a comment that we need to stop doing that, but now I can't find it. Crap.
Well, would it be that, or would it be using the,
Shoot. Shucks. Like, has this?
or is it building usage? Is it
No,
one
it
of
wasn't
the-
building
okay.
usage. I might have missed
Practice
it.
starts on the 15th.
I made a mistake then.
Okay.
I thought we had done that one more time again.
Okay, so the only item that we will be pulling is consent agenda. I don't know that there's anything assigned to it, but it would be the RTT withdrawal resolution, and we'll be discussing that after the presentation. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as shown? All those in favor? Okay. The next item would be the acceptance of donations. And today we have three individual separate donations. One would be from BV at Target. I imagine it's one of the matching donations. The other would be a donation from Modell's, and I believe that one is the team week when Modell's actually has a program where if you show the card or you identify yourself as being from Hen Hud, they give a donation back as a percentage of the proceeds sold. And the third item is a donation from Blue Mountain PTA, and that is a significant donation in the amount of just over $9,000 that will be donated for a tremendous amount of art equipment, pottery wheels, replicators, and some laminate tables and some other items for the art program at Blue Mountain. The PTA does that. It's actually what they do is it's a program where they they give the principal a certain amount of money and let him decide how he would like to spend it. And this was what Mr. Owens decided to do with some of the funds. So thank you very much to the individuals for Modell's, the Blue Mountain PTA, and for Target. If I could get a motion to approve these donations.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
One abstention, Roseanne. I signed the check for Blue Mountain.
Made out to me. Wait a minute.
Not to me, no. There's, we have audience comments. We have a moment right now. It's a hearing for non-agenda items. Since there will be a discussion, I'm assuming many of the parents here are about the race to the top and the data reporting. We will be discussing that later on. So if you could just withhold those comments until afterwards, that would be fine. Is there anything that's non-agenda related? Okay, that brings us to our superintendent's report.
Okay. Well, in light of a number of really important discussions we're going to have, I'm going to run through my updates real quick. We had, as you know, annually our fun day of Halloween, and I'd like to congratulate Enrique and Alice and Roseanne, who played along on the district baseball and softball team as we dressed up as baseball and softball players and ran around and took pictures and had our pictures taken, and it was great walking in the schools and no one knew who we were. That was a lot of fun.
Those
I
are
was-
some big ball
Yeah,
players.
I was asked to sign in 2 schools, so that was pretty cool. Parent-teacher conferences are underway. In fact, tonight at the high school, we're wrapping up our parent-teacher conferences. We've had fall festivals at BV and Furnace Woods, 2 outstanding events that were well attended and beautiful weather. We're working with our elementary teacher leaders and our principals to make some very important programmatic decisions. You'll hear from the elementary principals tonight in terms of where we were last year in terms of student achievement data and accomplishments, and they'll chime in on how we're addressing some of our needs and challenges this year. We're trying to bring more people to the table with all of the decisions that we have to make in terms of implementing the Common Core, state assessments, and benchmark reporting. So that's very exciting work. Our fall season, unfortunately, has officially concluded. Our girls volleyball team was the last team standing who performed admirably this past weekend in Arlington. They exceeded expectations and overachieved for what was supposed to be a rebuilding year. I think they ended up with a record right around 500, but surprised everyone through sectionals and got into the state tournament. Our cheerleading squad performed well. Our football team, through some adversity, as you know, we had to merge our JV team with our varsity team. They won the homecoming game pretty convincingly against Croton and wrapped up the season on a positive note. Last board meeting, I talked about our partnership with the National Center for College and Careers. We are going to be attending a statewide meeting with 5 other school districts and representatives from the State Education Department on either December 10th or 11th. We'll be sending a team to outside of Albany to participate in that. And they, members from the state and also from Washington, D.C., will spend 2 days in Hen Hud. We're looking at December 16th and 17th to meet with our stakeholder group, which will include staff and business representatives, to discuss initiatives that we have underway and to look at some research in how to involve middle school students and explore other possible career opportunities. So as those plans get firmed up, we'll certainly communicate those to the board. The bump tournament, the 48th annual bump tournament is this weekend. That's our speech and debate tournament, which draws students and participants from over 100 school districts. They will invade our campus Friday night, and festivities start around 4 o'clock Friday and go all day Saturday, so that's a fun event. And today, Alice and I took a field trip to Scarsdale. We went to the Scarsdale Teachers Institute, which is a long-standing collaboration that dates back to, I believe, 1968 between the Scarsdale Teachers Institute. That was developed between their teachers union at the time, their administration, and their community, trying to identify the needs of teachers at that time and work in a collaborative fashion to make sure that there are supports, that there are opportunities for professional growth, and that the Institute serves as sort of this third-party administrator of high-quality staff development. And so we spent an hour down there this morning to learn about how they came about and what they're doing, and to discuss what staff development opportunities we could create here to support our Hen Hud teachers as we implement the Common Core and just continue to do good things for kids. And lastly, we are starting to PR our bond vote. So you will see posters like this go up all over the place. We have 2 big posters that are maybe 5 foot by 3 foot that will go up in front of our elementary schools, reminding people to vote on December 10th. Our website is being populated with question and answer documents, with presentations, with financials, with detailed information about the project. I started last night with the Furnace Woods PTA, walking them through the project, what's in, what's not, and how the financing works. And we're communicating, I believe, 5 more public events for folks to become aware of the project, and also 2 events for our staff. So we're ramping up to December 10th, and I'm sure we'll hear some comments perhaps about the bond a little bit later today, but we are full force in communication mode.
You're also doing, meeting with, community groups. I know that you've been talking to the Lions and the Rotary, but also, Barbara's been reaching out to the seniors. And Soundings is coming out, that will be mailed as well.
Yep, Soundings will
So-
have a special edition for 4 to 6 pages, which will go out right around Thanksgiving. I met with the Lions last week. I'll be on a future Rotary agenda. The Chamber of Commerce is going to support us where they can in terms of giving us a vehicle to share the ins and outs of the project. And Barbara and Beth Gruber are working with
The seniors.
both senior groups in Buchanan and Verplank to keep them close to us so they understand the specifics of the project.
You'll also be at the meet and greet this Saturday.
I'll be at the meet and greet this Saturday. We'll have lots of information to share with those that are interested in learning more about the bond.
So, it will be, we'll mention it again, but again, it will be at Dunkin' Donuts at 8:30 till 10 o'clock on this Saturday morning. Thank you very much. That brings us to our committee reports. We've had Reed, I believe, this in the past few weeks. We've had Finance Committee. Charles, would you like to, you've been to both, so if you would like to.
You do finance and I'll do read.
Finance, basically, we started the discussions not only about this year's budget, but for the the coming year as well. At this point, it's, like any year, there's always dark before the dawn. We're very, we're early in the process, certainly early, because we're looking at a long-term approach, not just this year. And we're building on the work that's been done for the past several years, because it's basically, I don't want to say updating, but for the most part, we had projections, we had estimates, and we had ideas of where we're going to go, and we're just sort of building on that right now, because we have worked on a 3- and 5-year plan. Right now, I really can't. There's nothing specific that I can, we can talk about, but please know that we are working on that, and we will be, and it will get in full swing once the after the holidays. That will be a topic on each and every board meeting. The Read Committee.
Yeah, Excel report on BVPTA.
Okay.
I met, and Barbara lucked out. She said she'd go next time if I went this time, and they canceled next time.
Oh, I thought maybe they were having cake or something.
But it was a good meeting. I'd previously been to the Family Fun Day, which was a great event. They had a lot of people out there raising money, doing different things. And it's a busy day for everybody. And so I enjoyed being there. And then when we got to the PTA meeting the other night, they had a good discussion about what they'd done well, what they could do better next year, and how to bring it in and make it a better event. And so that was a good thing to do. I always enjoyed those at the Furnace Woods PTA. And they had a few other discussions that went on, and it was a good meeting. And I really like one thing about the BVPTA this year. Well, two things about it. First, they have a 30-minute session before the PTA meeting where they do a showcase of the school. And this time they had the kindergartners do their foundation program and how they go in the class, and they ran them through, and they showed how they learned the letters with the foundations program, and had videos of it, and then they had the kids demonstrate, and it was a really nice program to see that how it works. And so that was one thing. Then the meeting, Andrea and Allison have decided that the meetings are going to last an hour. So if you have any trepidation about attending the BVPTA, it starts on time, it ends on time. So that's really good.
Something to aspire to.
Yes, yes. But they had a full discussion, so it was really good. The Read meeting. Read is the Regional Education Advocacy District. It's about 9 school districts in the area, including us, Lakeland, Croton, Garrison, Haldane, Brewster, Mahopac. And we get together, and a few years ago, it spearheaded the data collection that resulted in mandate relief, or the state realizing the costs of mandates. And so that actually drove out a Read, and HUD was a founding member of it. This year we're trying to work on a way to look at what are the effects of testing, APPR, and scoring tests on local districts' budget. what percent of the budget is it? And so we're trying to capture data, and if we can get our district data in and cleaned up, then we can get other districts to contribute. And that was the way we worked on the mandates before, on the unfunded mandates before. So if we can do that, we'll come through with it. And we talked about different ways. Do you do it in terms of per pupil cost, or percent of the budget, or percent of the tax cap levy, which I think may be the way we're going. You know, we'll get a cost per pupil and how much it costs, but then what does it contribute to the tax cap levy? How much of the increase in the tax cap levy is taken up by these testing and APPR costs? And so we're working on that. We'll meet again in January and start gathering more data. And that was Reed.
You're on.
You want me?
Yeah.
No, she's gonna.
No, I was just going to
she's
say
gonna
there was
say-
also policy, so, ladies?
That would be Carol and Marion and myself, along with Joe. We discussed a little bit more about how we're going to do our policy meetings, that perhaps that we will give the first part of it to what we're supposed to be doing, the mandates, the legal, you know, which ones we're supposed to be covering, and then the second half to actually start working on them, little different than we've done before. The ones that we were talking about have to do with, the ones we're going to start working on have to do with transportation. They also have to do with enrichment. They have to do with our food policy. Claire was there with us and talked about a few things that we need to address. Some of our extracurricular policies that comes through the audit, we need to straighten things out on there, right? And some of them are outdated. We also brought up, because you know me, I always have to bring up something. We also talked about our retention, renaming that retention policy, not to just make it elementary, and maybe that will further discussion on stuff that might have to happen or be looked at again. And I talked about something about the flag, but we could talk about that later.
Yeah.
Also, our procedure of how we do policy. So for instance, if we're gonna work on something, then maybe Mr. Huckrider can send it out to the people who it's going to concern right away. So if we're gonna work on a policy about
Enrichment.
anything, it would go out to the principals, it would go out to maybe some union heads, so they could help work on it too, because, you know, us on the outside of the building are gonna miss stuff that those on the inside of the building say, hey, look at this, take a look at this, etc. Also, if they relate to something that a teacher should know, then we have to integrate it so a teacher knows it. So right now, so we don't have to say, but there's a policy,
Okay.
and a staff member might say something, I didn't know there was a policy.
Do you want
So if
to
something
talk about it?
directly relates to how they have to do business, we're gonna make sure they know about it. And that's it.
Well, actually, it's not, because,
No, for us, for policy
no, but
side.
I'm saying, correct, but it's also not, there's also leadership, which I guess I should make the list ahead of time so I can just check it all off.
Technology.
But technology, and Barbara did attended the technology.
Well, Charles and I are part of technology.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right, you
that's
covered
right,
for
that
me.
was the cover.
That was the
Yeah.
trade.
Yes.
So-
I covered for him in technology, he covered for me in BV. Matthew discussed with us that the help desk, I believe, is almost all caught up this year. There have been some really big problems only because our infrastructure still needs some work done, hopefully with the bond.
Hopefully
That
so.
will be, corrected. As well, Matthew is trying to put together a short PR video on technology. Volunteers are going to be needed, and some of the teachers and kids that are using instructional technology will be part of this PR video. He's trying to get students, one per grade level, to be part of the video, I believe, and that hopefully this will be accomplished before Thanksgiving and be finished. Matthew also presented to the committee the specific bond issues per school. He shared the different aspects of the bond, and he talked about basically some of the things that are needed to correct our technology problems and what are going to be included in the capital project. I think the biggest eye-opener for me is that there's, I believe, 11 closets that hold some of the main things, and we don't have air conditioning in these closets. That's a big thing that has to be done, plus wiring and connecting everything a little bit better than what we have, putting in some, different things with the technology wiring and making everything just more
Efficient.
user-friendly and efficient, yes. There was also a visit by Karen Young and Mr. Hochreiter and Matthew. There's an A+ educators group that Karen is part of, and it's a professional development group. I guess they were in the classrooms looking at smart boards and how they're actually used by teachers, and how to better utilize smartboard technology and equipment to align themselves with the Common Core. And I guess it's the hope that they will be able to expand the internal key trainer groups for teaching the specific lessons to go along with the Common Core. And let me say, there are some primary password issues at Furnace Woods. He also gave a little talk about the tech summit that was attended. Maura Koch attended one. Matthew talked about some things that he had looked at, and that was, I think,
You
about
missed
it.
the one, you missed the big one.
No, I didn't.
The one where he's-
No, I did not, Charles.
You
So,
filled me in on it, where the guy, where he told them if they misuse their email again, he's gonna shut them down.
oh, well, no,
Because
no.
we've had so many troubles
Ooh.
with.
No, he's not gonna
No?
shut them
Okay.
down. No, what he said is that people.
Look at him.
Over
Yes,
and
I
over there
am.
over a few things, huh?
People that are giving out passwords that they shouldn't be, then, I guess there's gonna be some repercussions for teachers that are not.
Dr.
are
Swerdloff, the
giving
enforcer.
out- He is, yay, because it's
Good.
caused a lot of problems. So he is getting very strict with people that give out their passwords incorrectly.
That's good, Matthew,
Well-
because I
Mayor
don't
Pat,
remember
before
mine.
you go into leadership, I'm gonna do a shameless plug for the PTAs and
Nice.
HHCEF who are outside. They have, different things for sale. Also the business club that's selling food. So if you just go out, those are all groups that support us and give us donations,
Yes.
and they have donated,
You can never have
smartboards.
too much handheld gear. How's
Yes,
that?
yes.
So,
Every household needs.
our suggestion, get the last name. It's good for hand-me-downs that way. So, anyway, I think that does, I think that sums up our committee reports for this, for the past few weeks. Thank you very much. I know it's a lot of time, and I appreciate that. So, and I know you guys do a good job, so thank you. That brings us to our elementary academic report. Our first presentation, where Dr. Gottlieb and the three principals will be.
Good evening, everyone. This is a joint effort, as is every day in the elementary school. It's new.
I know.
All right, so as we've been speaking about, our work and our challenges are coming from New York State and from the federal government, and the governor's reform agenda based to have our children ready, and we're talking about kindergarten on, college and career ready, based in data-driven instruction, our teacher effectiveness, teacher leader effectiveness, and the Common Core state standards. So these are our challenges for the year, and we'll talk to you about where we are and what we're doing. I reported to the board recently on our APPR process, and to refresh your memory, it's 100 points each teacher, each principal receives based on 20% of a growth model. That's an assessment in the beginning of the year and the end of the year. For grades 3 through 5, it ends with the state assessments. Benchmarking, which we've selected to do in writing and math. Benchmarking is a more authentic assessment. These are kids actually writing and actually doing a performance task in math. So it's not so much a test as a benchmark. And it's a way for us to gauge achievement. And finally, the framework for teaching is a rubric on which principals look at the work that teachers are doing. And this is really very deep, 60 points worth. So that's the teacher effectiveness. And this was negotiated and approved by the state. For the data-driven instruction, we've been using data for a very long time, well before New York State said we had to. So what we're using, basically, in addition, of course, to, kid watching and assessing at the end of each lesson and tests and quizzes and classes, the more universal screening we're doing, we use AimsWeb in reading, not so much in math this year, but in reading. And that's just a quick take on how kids are decoding words. We progress monitor kids we're worried about, meaning we look at their progress throughout the year to make sure they're on the correct slope of improvement. Again, our common assessments are benchmarking in reading comprehension, in writing, and in math. You see those 3 forms of writing, even from kindergarten on. A narrative is storytelling, argument is, stating your opinion, and informative is writing from sources, writing report, writing expository writing. So you'll see this throughout the year. And then, of course, the New York State Assessment Program. Nothing new. This is something I like to show you each year. We use the AimsWeb screening, not easy to say, to look at how fluent kids are in their reading. And there is a correlation between fluency and comprehension. In other words, if you understand what you're reading, you can read it more smoothly and more quickly. So it's comparing our 3 schools, how kids are doing. These funny-looking bars, the lines at the top and the bottom are kind of the outliers. The fat part of the bar is where most of the kids are. And those black lines in the middle, or hopefully lower than the middle, are the targets. And when a bulk of your school is above the target, that's good. These are New York State targets. So first grade doesn't provide targets in the fall because first graders are just emergent readers. But going forward, you can see that in second grade, all of our schools, the averages are well above the target. Third grade also. Fourth grade kind of at the target in some places. And fifth grade, again, our kids are above the target. So that's good.
Yeah,
Okay? It's just a graphic you like to look at each year. We reported on this in August, the New York State assessments from last spring. As you know, it was the first administration of the Common Core assessments. I think, to put it kindly, everyone in New York State got killed on these tests. The proficiency, the levels 3 and 4, went down an average of 30 points in nearly every district in the state. We were no exception. However, when we compare how we did with other districts in Westchester and Putnam counties, we stayed exactly where we have been. So we didn't fall more, we didn't fall less. We were right with everybody else in our area. And this is a high-achieving area. And every district's working hard, all our kids are working hard, all our parents are supporting our kids, and that's where we are. A few pockets of excellence. Our third grade at Frank G. did remarkably well last year, and our fourth grades at Furnace Woods and BV also did well last year. So there were some pockets of excellence, and that's good. Okay, so that's where we are. I reported on this in August, much more thorough report. So what we're doing about the Common Core, this is really our big challenge for the year. And I recognize some parents here who were at our math night. Hopefully we won't repeat that kind of a night. We are having more math nights going forward, but small group by grade level, working on the mathematics, not on the politics of it, to support families. And the first one will be next week, the 20th, Wednesday, at Furnace Woods School for the whole district. We're doing a math night at Furnace Woods for parents across the district, one in January at Frank G. Lindsay for parents across the district, and the third night hosted at BV with BV teachers in March for parents across the district. We also are very involved in very in-depth committee work with teacher leaders from across our district, led by our 3 elementary principals. They'll talk to you about the work they're leading. Dr. Kane is leading the work in mathematics, Mrs. Teresi is leading the work in reading, and Mr. Cohn is leading the work in writing. 2 tasks for each one of these groups. The first task is to make the modules work for this year. Brand new to all of us, very difficult. It's getting better. Not perfect yet, but we're working on getting it to work for kids. And then, of course, to plan for the future. Will we stick with the modules, or will we look elsewhere? So that's where we are. And I'll ask Dr. Kane to come talk about math.
You gonna click for me?
here we are. Fluency. Fluency is designed to promote automaticity. And if the kids like it, it gets their adrenaline flowing. An example is the teacher will give maybe 20 quick problems for the children to do, whether it's 5 + 9 is or 10 - 8 is, and they just quickly go through it. Could be multiplication, division, and then when they use a timer, and then when the timer goes off, everybody has to stop, and then the teacher will read the answers. So the teacher will say, number 1, 10. 10's the answer, and the kids go, yes. Like, and then they keep going. Number 2, 7, yes. And on and on and on. And then what you notice as an observer, as a teacher, say there are 20 problems, as say they're up to 11, number 11 out of the 20, and you'll hear the voices drop a little bit off. And now, sometimes it's because they didn't get up to that problem, or sometimes it's because they got it wrong, which is fine. That's what this is about. And so, one of the classes I was in, when we got to the last 5 problems, there was one child saying, yes, yes. But it gives the teacher an idea of, who they don't have to worry about, who they want to watch more closely in the next part of the lesson, and just put something in their minds to look at for the future. Another way that the teachers will help the kids with fluency, because it doesn't all have to happen in the hour and a half or 2 hours we spend on math. They could be online, going to lunch or to a special, and the teacher will just throw out some of these fluency things, like 2 times 3 and everybody will yell 6 and whatever it is. So we work on that a lot. Concept development, that's the major portion of the lesson for the day, and you cannot, there's a lot of this stuff that can be combined or skipped over, but the concept, that's what you're teaching for the day, and that's what the children need to learn. Now, I was watching a lesson where the kids were doing greater than and less than, and they were also working with zeros, tens, hundreds. So first, the kids had manipulatives to work with. And what's fascinating about all of this is when kids solve a problem, they have these little whiteboards. You can walk around, 5 different kids will be doing it in a different way to get to the same answer. So they'll use manipulatives to start, and then they might move into doing it, with taking pictures, like they're working with 10 and 20, and they'll put 10 dots, put 20 dots. How many more dots do you need to make 20? And then they move to the abstract, which is where we want them to get to. But they'll understand the math behind it and what it looks like. Problem set. Each lesson has a problem set. I was in a 1st grade class, and what I like is that the kids start doing word problems. I was in a 1st grade class, and it was a simple word problem, but I don't remember working or struggling through word problems till I was older, and my heart would stop when I look at a word problem because, it wasn't straight math. Anyway, so in this first grade class, it was something like Carol skipped rope 46 times in an hour, and Jimmy skipped rope for 23 times on the playground. How much faster does Jimmy have to skip to get where Carol is? So, you know, you start at a very young age learn how to do word problems. You feel more comfortable with it. So I remember algebra. I was really good in algebra, but geometry was very hard for me. And my dad worked very, very late, and I would leave him a note. If you come home 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., please wake me up because I need help with my geometry. So why am I telling this story? Just to say that, you know, math is hard for some kids. And for some kids, it's very easy. And, you know, as parents, we really want to help them. And as teachers, we want to help them. And as we're working through this process, we're trying not only to get the kids comfortable with the math, but to help the parents also. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing the workshops. Because it's very different than the way we were taught. You know, I remember just learning in a more rote way, but I didn't necessarily see what's behind it. And that's what's happening. It's hard for all of us adults because we didn't learn that way. But as the kids pick it up, it looks like it's going to be good. In the student debrief, the kids reflect back on the day's lesson, and the students' megacognition is developed, meaning that in this debrief, the kids are showing that they really understand and can tell you the focus of the lesson. And that's what we're looking for there.
That's okay, there's still another.
Application problem. That's what I was just talking about with the word problems. The first time the teacher does it with them, the next time the kids are working it out by themselves. And that's when I was talking about the whiteboard. That's where they do it. The exit ticket. So these are all parts of every day, the math lesson of the day, the unit. And some things you can skip or put together. Concept development, you cannot skip, that's the lesson. And here with the exit ticket, it holds the children accountable for the material that they learned that day. And so there can be 2 problems, say, for an exit ticket, and kids can do it, the teacher keeps it, so the teacher can get a good idea of who's understanding the material and who's not, and who they need to work with in a small group. Exit tickets can also be the homework, whereas they can go home with the problems and try to do them, and if they can't, they just come back and the teacher works with them the next day. So that's where we are in math and how we're doing it. And it's sometimes fun and it's sometimes very difficult, but I think we're off to a good start.
Okay, so reading. Mrs. Teresi.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Hey, hey.
I am now working with the Elementary Reading Committee, and it's an exciting group. As you know, our district has always had Storytown and trophies, but we have decided this year to start off with a pilot of Module 1 for grades 3, 4, and 5. K2 is still with Storytown and using the phonetic drill and practice and everything like that, but we are just taking 3, 4, 5 and using Module 1, a very strong social studies and ELA combination for our students. It's focused mostly on, as the state has said, in a very formative writing, where students are reading for meaning, understanding what's important facts, and really being able to digest it, and then also in their own words explain it or compare paired text. That's our focus. Our short-term goal in the elementary committee meeting right now is, since we're just piloting number 1, module 1 for 3, 4, 5, is where do we go after module 1? We're still going to use Storytown and Trophies. We still have great literature in those systems that we have purchased, but we are going to actually align that with the curriculum, and there is a program called Edmodo, and Edmodo actually takes Storytown and Trophies and correlates the state standards and what needs to be taught, so the teachers can actually look at the program, look at Storytown and say, okay, we've got it, we can move on. Actually, that has been a little bit more like giving us a deep breath. What we're actually doing is we're taking Storytown, which is presently at Furnace Woods and Frank G. Lindsay, and we will transport all texts in a Subaru, mine, on Friday to BV at no cost to the district.
Traveling show.
Little red Subaru will go to BV with 3, 4, and 5 textbooks. And what we're going to do is actually provide them, I do everything, Frank J. Provide them with the textbook so they can use it as a resource. The teachers will be given 15 to 20 types of books. They can choose which ones fit their program and align with their curriculum in their classroom, and have the very good informative examples. As you can see right there, we still want to do 50% informational and 50% narrative. Okay? And then our long-term goal, oh, thank you, this little magic button. That's me pointing to success. Long-term goal is really to continue to invest.
Looks like you, honey.
You think so? I thought so, after Jenny Craig. Investing in some new material that support the Common Core. We have also brought to Furnace Woods, Frank G. and BV CCLS material, which are actually fantastic. Short, formative paragraphs the kids get to read. It's a nice little how to really look for important meaning, the close technique, and drill and practice. We're also going to plan also to use Engage New York and really look at the different modules and the other texts that go along with it and see how that fits in. We are at one point going to branch off with my writing committee, my partner, Mr. Cohen, and look at writing and how it goes along with our reading program and create effective assessments that tell us how to move forward so that our children are prepared for the middle school and high school. Thank you.
Mrs. Tracy, before you, could you explain why we have different programs at the different schools?
Absolutely. What happened
For the
was,
audience.
before my time, we started at BV piloting what was called Trophies. Trophies is the same company as Storytown. The difference between Storytown and Trophies is Trophy was the first one, and what they did was with Trophies, because I work with that in my other district, is they did one skill per story. The complaint for most teachers was to say we need a skill at least twice in sequence. So they came up with what was called Storytown. So technically the program is there, the stories may be different, the curriculum is there, the sequence, it's just it's just different stories and a different process of laddering and scaffolding. That's all it is. We do notice, however, in some grade levels that Storytown does, the Storytown that we have instead of Trophies does have a little bit more informational text. So that's why we're going to share our textbooks with BV. So I'm collecting them.
I just remember we bought the one year, and then the next
Yes.
year they didn't have
Yeah.
it, so that's why there's a difference.
So now Trophies is really out of print. Storytown, you can still get workbooks, et cetera, but the next iteration is Journeys from the same company. So, not saying that we're buying this, but they've moved on beyond Storytown.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
you.
Thank you.
thanks. The reason we have text at the other two schools is our declining enrollment. That's why we have extra text to send over to BV. We don't want to buy Storytown text at this point because we will be moving on to something else.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Cohn.
Why would you?
All right, good evening, everybody. So with our writing committee, we're really going to further scrutinize each of the Common Core standards and make sure we're addressing the key types of writing that Dr. Gottlieb described earlier. And we're going to just review what does Common Core teaching look and sound like. You know, are there things that we're doing well? Are there things that we're teaching that aren't addressing the standards and maybe just kind of tweaking that a bit? As Mrs. Teresi shared, we're kind of pooling the resources in reading and writing and working together because often they can mirror each other very well. Trophy, Storytown, 6 traits. There's pieces in the modules that have writing. There's things that teachers have used from previous experience, and we really want to see what's working across the district and share that with one another. And then there's possible resources outside of what we currently have that we want to consider, and figure out how do we hit all students' needs. Are there different ways to accomplish that, and how do we help our teachers do that for our children? Some of the key things that we are focusing on is that writing process from beginning to end, the pre-writing, the drafting, the revising, the editing, the publishing, and that could be done with everything. There's importance of student involvement, accountability, checklists, rubrics, so that everyone knows before we start what is expected. There's interdisciplinary connections that we could be working on. And it's important that students aren't always writing from prompts, that they have opportunities to explore on their own, of their own interest. And again, there's a lot of great work to incorporate grammar, spelling, vocabulary, and it's a great team of teacher leaders. So look forward to more from that.
So we thank you. You can see that our challenges this year are state provided, but we feel we're meeting them best we can. So thank you.
I'm going to just let the board if they have any questions.
In this committees that you're meeting with, are these going to be like teacher trainers? Are they key people, or is it a very large group of people?
At this point, the groups are big, but they're not everyone. They're essentially one per grade level per school on each committee.
Okay.
And the people who are first on these committees were people who volunteered to go to BOCES for workshop training, so they showed interest last summer, or the people who are grade level leaders, or the people who are head building reps from our HHEA, the union. So they're all the people who have chosen leadership roles in one way or another, but we're hoping over time to move other people in, and some people will move out so that everyone can rise to this
That's good.
leadership.
Okay.
And yes, they will be turnkey.
Are any of the exit tickets timed so that we know how the kids are doing as far as, whether they might be able to finish the state test at the end of the year, or whether they're going to need like oodles more time than they're given?
That's such an
Do you
interesting
have
question.
any
The fluency
feel for that?
pieces are timed because the thing about fluency is you're supposed to know 7 times 8 as fast as you know what's your name. And, that's the kind of question we ask kids. But for the exit tickets, no, they're not timed. Kids have to think. Some kids think differently, think more quickly, think more slowly. But I would imagine teachers are watching this pretty carefully.
And the idea is if you can cut down on.
Donna can't hear. You're on television.
You're on TV.
Also, if you're also cutting down on time on the computation, that will allow more time for the actual word problem. So that's really what we are doing.
Alexia, while you're talking about time, Dr. Kane mentioned that a math lesson might be 1.5 hours to 2 hours. How do our kids in elementary school spend their day? They have reading, writing, math, social studies, science.
Such a good question.
I mean, do they
Well,
spend 2 hours in math and then 2 hours? How does it work?
The math block is set up to be an hour, but it's drifting over everywhere because they're getting involved. Literacy is 1.5 hours, 90 minutes.
Every day?
Every day. And there's another period where kids get support, where they work in small groups with their teachers, and of course social studies and science and specials.
In the
There's
specials, you mean?
Special art, music twice a week, PE twice a week.
Art
And
twice a
children,
week?
art once a week. And children have library once a week, but with one fewer librarian. They have a library once a week, grades 3 through 5 now in the fall, and kindergarten through 2nd grade will then have library in the spring. And we thank you for that. You restored some library for us.
Anybody else?
Are we planning any trainings for parents or just some workshops for parents on the Common Core?
We have got 3 math trainings planned
Okay.
for parents, 3
Okay,
workshops.
Okay, and what about the ELA though?
And for the ELA, we're worried about math right now
Okay.
because it's so different.
So
And,
what is-
parents are more comfortable with close reading and knowing that you know how to write a report and all that, we think. And we certainly would be, you know, we would entertain it. But right now, math is such a focus because it looks so different. You know, I've been saying math is math, but it does look different, and it's scary to lots of folks. So we're
Just to
supporting there. And all of our teachers are involved, so, you know, there's just so much anybody can do.
Just to clarify, these parent nights, despite the fact that it's certain, say Furnace Woods, and the parents throughout the district are.
We
it's-
wanted these parent nights, we wanted these workshops to be in classrooms where all the stuff is, because that's part of the teaching. You know, you see the manipulatives, you see the literacy up on the walls. So Furnace Woods is hosting for the whole district
Correct,
in
that's
6
it.
classrooms, a kindergarten section, a first grade, a second grade, and their teachers are all working on it now, planning. Frank G will be doing the same. I believe January 29th is the date. And BV will be hosting their night with the 6 classrooms in March.
I just want to make it clear that despite
for everyone.
what school you go to,
It's for
you're
everyone in the
welcome.
district.
You can, and you're welcome at any, you know, any or all of the 3.
Absolutely,
So-
and
Do you know if
encouraged.
they're planning any babysitting for those nights?
Yes, they
Is
are.
the PTA doing it?
Okay.
That came out already, I think. That came home today.
We decided it was smart to have some teaching assistants on hand for parents who need some place to bring their children.
And what about any kind of specific night, say for parents of children with special learning needs, or ELA students, or students who are gifted? Parents of students who are gifted. It might be a good idea. Maybe
It's a good idea. That they have we hold, along with the Hen Hud Free Library, we hosted parent night for parents of English language learners. And of course, we have people there who are speaking other languages to make it accessible. And it was highly successful last year. A lot of people showed up.
I just would also like to know, with the books that are recommended in Engage New York, who is selecting, or is that your group that's selecting which books, or are we reading all the books?
If
that
we
the
go with the
state has?
modules from Engage New York, those books are recommended by
Okay.
the people who wrote the modules, and they're, you know, it's part of the whole. So if we go if we go with the module, you know, you follow it because it builds thematically. Those books were chosen for a purpose.
You know, years ago when we toured the schools, differentiation was
Differentiation?
differentiation.
That's quite a
Very
word.
successful. Are we able to do that now with the Engage New York?
That is such a challenge for teachers to find the time for small group instruction and for the differentiation. It's so important to them that they're finding the time, but there's so much about this year that's different, and that's a big challenge. But they are finding the time. A new word popped up on Engage New York recently under the literacy piece, and that word, it's, you know, one of the many acronyms in New York State. It's GRARE, and it's Guided Reading, Accountable, Independent, GRARE. Wait a minute.
You mean a new acronym?
Guided reading is the GR. A is accountable, independent reading. So these are pieces that, on top of everything else teachers are expected to do, they now need to make sure to include some GRARE time. And this is brand new to us. Brand new, like last week.
So you're saying it's
They're making
being
up a
very
lot of new rules,
difficult
by the way.
to do it.
49
It seemed
cents.
like it was a very.
It was so much a part of what we did.
Yes, and so, but I had heard one teacher say that these modules were designed to be taught by one person standing in front of the class, so.
It certainly appears that they are, and one of the reasons that we have this big committee work is to find ways to embrace our good teaching, that which we know is good teaching, and have the small groups and the guided instruction both in reading and in math, and the differentiation.
Do you think in the future it'll get,
It has to get better.
okay.
It's gonna
Our teachers are
disappear.
too good for it not to.
It's gotten easier since September.
But
Any
thank
other
you for asking.
questions? I
I
think
do
just
too.
given, you have questions? Deb?
Yeah. Charles, you just heard Helene say that you're walking around with the whiteboards and kids are doing problems
5 different.
5 different ways. The problem is the test is not going to let them do it 5 different ways. It's going to say, box this. You know what my phrase is, box this lady. Okay, I can't. So they're not going to ask them, which is unfortunate because kids learn decimals all different ways and they don't box everything and they want you to explain stuff that doesn't need an explanation, even for a 3rd grader. So when
You have
Helene
to
said she's
explain
seen
box this to me. I don't know what that means.
if you're
Well,
doing.
it's a good thing you're not in
if you're
third grade.
doing
Let it go.
placement or something like that. You know, some kids just know to move the decimal. Some kids know how to multiply by 10 squared. You move the decimal to make the number bigger.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. How do you divide by a fraction? You multiply by its reciprocal, but I was told that was a trick. Last I heard, that's how you divide fractions. But they want you to box everything, and that should be one way that you teach a child that maybe they see it differently. It shouldn't be the way it's asked on the test.
That's right.
You know, because kids do things differently, but they're going to get it wrong. Even if they get the right answer, they're going to get points off if they don't do it the specific way they're asking. So making things different for kids is out with the, what's that phrase? The baby with the baby or something like that.
Baby with the
What am I saying?
bathwater.
Throwing the
Okay.
baby out with the bathwater.
Right, unfortunately.
Oh, geez, we
So hopefully
read the
stuff like
same
that's
book.
gonna change. But my question is this, when we're looking, this is just a little kind of thing that maybe you could look for, workbooks with space to actually do work,
What a concept.
right? Or something like
You
that.
mean written, well, we know that these modules were written by brilliant mathematicians and not teachers.
But not, absolutely.
So hopefully,
15
and
of
the
them have that.
worksheets that they give us are PDF'd. So, you know, any teacher who has a Word document can make bigger spaces, but you can't with these.
Right.
So you're absolutely right.
It's just that, you know, doing all this
I'm assuming that
multiplication.
over time, as these modules get more settled, the Engage New York will provide workbooks, and hopefully they'll be
Or
designed
disappear or
better.
something.
So absolutely correct.
Okay.
But I see
Because-
good math and I hear good math talk, and that makes me happy. Thank you.
We're going to we're going to deviate just a little bit from our agenda. If there's any parent questions, if you have to come up and give us your name. Nope, you gotta come up. That's the rules.
Protocol.
Hi, I'm Madge McKeever. I have 2 kids in the district. I have a question regarding the math night. Are you just doing it for elementary, or are you going to be doing anything for the middle school and the high school level for math?
I'm gonna pray. Sorry,
I don't have anything planned right now. It's the elementary that was so vastly different, but I will take that back because that is really an important suggestion.
Okay, so
And when
you'll-
I say take it back, you know, I don't
Tomorrow.
think Mr. Owens is here, but Mr. Mackin is.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks.
Are there any other questions? Please come up.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Asher. I've got twin daughters in 4th grade at Furnace Woods. I don't know if this is the place to get an answer to this, but the question is, 4th grade math as it was taught a year ago versus how it's being taught now. Can somebody explain in a concrete manner the improvement of one year to the next? Maybe this isn't the forum for that, but that's
Yeah,
my
it is.
question.
That's
I'd
more
love
than the
to
3
talk to you.
minutes you're allowed, sir.
I'd love to talk to you, and I'm not going to say improvement, I'm going to say difference.
It's
But I'd love to
different.
talk to you, and I too have twin daughters, so we can have a great conversation. So, you know, make an appointment, I'd love to talk about it, okay?
I didn't mean to sound flippant. My suggestion was that that is a very long, huge, I mean, it's more than just,
But it would be great, we could show you
Yes.
stuff, and we
It's
can decide
absolutely-
together in a few years if we see
it's a
improvement.
cup of coffee one.
Just a very quick thing we heard in Reed just a while ago was that New York State just went all in every grade at one time. Many superintendents feel it would have been better if you started in kindergarten and sequentially went up the line.
Of
That would have been
course.
12 years, so.
That's way too logical.
It's a question of
So
implementation.
that was,
yeah.
that would have been the most effective way to do it, but we went all in.
And when the commissioner responded to that, he said,
We're improving.
we can't do that to those kids. That's 12 years of kids. You know, the 3rd graders and the 4th graders and the 5th graders. So they just jumped
So
in
that-
all at once.
Let me just make one comment. And before we move on, kind of wrapping up the elementary piece, many kudos to Alice and our 3 principals who have taken this on. This
Absolutely.
Common Core is something that, yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Our principals.
The Common Core is something that I think we can agree was done to us, and I think our philosophy is to use our resources, both human and financial, to do the best job we can with the resources we have available, and the three principals have stepped up to chair the committees that they just talked about, and they're working with people who aren't theirs. They're working, Donna's working with staff from 2 other buildings and vice versa, so there's this great energy and cross-pollination of experiences that are coming together at the same place in the same time to problem solve, not just for the students in their building, but for all students. And it's exciting work, it's different, and we're trying to make this work for all of our students so that we can implement things as best as we can, but really so we can teach kids really, really well in terms of ELA and math. So there's exciting work. We're going to continue to do this. We're planning on at a future board meeting to bring back members of those 3 committees to sort of talk about the growth and progress and go an inch deep or an inch wide and a mile deep with how their committees function, how they're communicating, how decisions are being made, because it's important work, and it's important we celebrate Alice, the principals, and certainly the teachers who have stepped up. So that's coming at a future meeting.
Thank you. That would bring us to our next topic, which would be the data reporting and data privacy concerns in the context of Race to the Top.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
That would be
Thank you.
Mr.
So we
Have a
have,
good night.
we are,
Dr. Swerdloff and Mr. Hawk.
we are interested in communicating to the board and the public, both who are here and on TV, all of the recent decisions and implementation issues surrounding student data. You have heard a lot recently about security of information, student-specific information, family demographics, and history of previous children, and who has access to what used to be very simple school records. So there is very significant movement in the state. There are hundreds of pages of documents and laws and policies that you could sift through, and what we're going to do for the next 15 or 20 minutes is we're going to give you the must-haves. Matthew has been attending a series of meetings along with Alice and myself around the reporting issue, around how the state is asking for student data, what data they're asking for, where it goes to, and how we can ensure with a sense of reliability to families that the right information is being communicated to the right parties. We would like to wrap up this piece of the presentation with a resolution asking the board to pass a resolution opting out of supplying specific student information to the state and also to InBloom. So this is a pretty big deal, a really important conversation, and want to kind of walk you through the history and what decisions need to be made and how we're adopting them. So with that, I give you Dr. Swerdloff.
Thank you. So I will take you through this as best I can, and it's a pretty complicated thing, so I'm going to try and make it as straightforward as possible, but this has been kind of building for so long, and there's so many different sides to it. So this is kind of just an overview of the topics. I want to start by just talking about what we're doing now, because I think a lot of the upset has to do with a lot of people don't know what we've been doing for 10 years, and so this is not all new. This is kind of an extension of what we've been doing, so I will talk a little bit about that. And then this whole idea of the cloud, that sometimes scares people, and I want to explain exactly what that means. Talk about this data dictionary and these data dashboards that are part of Race to the Top, what InBloom is, what it isn't, and then get to the recommendation that Joe asked for. So this is what we are extracting now, and this is what you probably would expect, student demographics, so all this information that we have on students. We are also extracting staff demographics, so our staff, their positions, their number of years teaching, their degrees, their credentials, things like that. And then we also extract staff, what's called staff student assignments, which is a correlation of basically every teacher's roster. So in an elementary school, it would be their 20 or 25 students. In a high school or middle school, it would be all the students that see a specific staff person. And those correlations are used to calculate the APPR. We also submit an entire course catalog to state ed, which we've done for years at the high school level. In the last couple of years, we had to actually create courses in elementary school. We have a reading course, an ELA course, a math course, science, social studies courses that we're not really teaching elementary school like it's a middle school, but in our data system, it is set up that way. And of course, attendance. So the system that's in place has these different, what are called levels. And it's just important to know where these levels are, where this data resides, because again, one of the big concerns people have is who has my data? Where is it? And who is it? Is it the government that's managing my data, which I may or may not trust more than a private corporation? Is it the BOCES that's managing my data? Where is my data? So those different levels shows you the path of what we have right now for data, and it really it's easiest to understand if you look at it graphically. So start down here, this box in the bottom, level 0. So when we extract our data to BOCES every week, it goes to the Lower Hudson Regional Information Center in Harrison. So that's physically where the data is stored, at their server. Then it moves to level 1, which is still at the Regional Information Center. So this is the BOCES, part of the BOCES. They move the data to this intermediary called level 1C, where some calculations are done on it. And then it goes to level 2, which is at the Western New York Regional Information Center out in the southern tier. So it's still within the state, we're still within the BOCES, it's still kind of controlled by state ed. And then it goes to level 2 production. And the last level right now is what's called the GROW reporting. This is the system that produces the school report cards. So as that data moves up, as it moves up through each level, there's error checking that's done on it. There are scripts that are run on it to produce different reports. And the end point right now is that GROW reporting, which produces those individual student reports and school report cards. So that's what we're doing right now.
Can I stop right? But Matthew, right now it's students' grades. It has to do with their ethnicity, but it has nothing to do with their behavior record.
Correct.
Or anything like that.
I get to that.
This is normal stuff.
Yep.
So
yeah.
So we're good right now.
Yes.
All right,
Stay tuned.
Can we just let Matthew continue?
Yes,
and
I
then
just
we
wanna
can
make
put our
sure people
questions at the
know.
end?
I just wanted to touch on one. At level 0, how accurate is that data? Because it's self-reported, correct?
It's self-reported, and I will tell you from my own experience that if you asked me to sign an affidavit saying our data is accurate, I would not do it.
Absolutely.
And there have been, and the data comes from us, but just in moving through that system,
Correct.
like we'll report data and it'll go to level 0 and there'll be no errors. And then 2 days later it'll be moved to level 1 and all of a sudden there's 50 errors. And I don't know how that happened, but they ran some calculation and then there's errors. And this happens all the time, all the time. So we have many times in the past years when we have to certify different reports, we have certified as not accurate because it takes several days to get up through that cycle to go through the system. So if you're against a deadline, you can't always go back and fix it in time. So there have been many times where we have certified our data and the superintendent has signed, said, yes, we submitted our data, but it's not accurate.
Or you just can't certify the accuracy?
You can't certify the accuracy,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So talk a little bit about the cloud. So there's this idea of the cloud, and people hear, my data's in the cloud. The cloud is really not a place, it's a concept. So what the cloud means is basically my data is not in my house or my school, it's in someone else's business, in some secure data center. So it's physically in a server, in some secure data center somewhere. What makes it the cloud is that data is accessed over the internet by different services. So in this scenario, the student data, which right now is within state ed, when it's in the cloud, it will be accessed by different third-party applications, so different products. That's what the cloud means. So, and a good example of this is Amazon. So when you think about Amazon, they have their servers all over the world. They have big data centers all over the world. There's no one place where all their data lives, and their data is accessed by different applications. Google's another example of that. The next thing to understand is open standard, and this is one of the big selling points, the big thing that the state ed is saying is so powerful about the data dashboard is that it's what's called an open standard, which is kind of a scary name when you think about your children's data and an open standard. Open standard means that the access to the data is non-proprietary. What that means is that if I have the data on my server and I create a interface and I give it to the other vendors, they take that interface and they can use it to access my data. So the best example of that, again, is Amazon. So if you go onto Amazon's website and you search for something, and Amazon doesn't sell it, you'll see these little listings, you know, sold by this other company. So here's a plug-and-play adjustable USB microphone. I went onto Amazon. Amazon doesn't sell it, but I can order it from HDE through Amazon. That's because Amazon is an open standard. So what they have done is all these other companies, and you could do this yourself if you want to sell your stuff, right? You can access Amazon's software through this open standard. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's the same idea as what they want to do with the data in Bloom, which I'll get to in a second. Okay, so just a little recap of Race to the Top. So Race to the Top required a lot of things of school districts. Obviously, adopting Common Core learning standards, the new APPR system, and then the last element that we're talking about tonight is what they're calling the data dashboard, or the Engage New York Data Portal. It has a couple of names. And we are, as a part of the Race to the Top, we are required to select a vendor for the data dashboard and implement it for 2 years. We received $23,150 from Race to the Top over 4 years. We've spent all but $4,721, which is encumbered for training for this year but has not been spent. So that's an amount of money that is potentially would be lost if the board chose to opt out at this point, $4,000. I can tell you that we've spent well over the $23,000 on compliance with Race to the Top.
About how much?
300,000 or 400,000.
Yeah, a lot.
Doesn't make any of us happy.
Okay, so the data dictionary, and for those of you in the audience or watching at home, the data dictionary is posted on Board Docs, the full document. The data dictionary is the document that State Ed created that basically will tell us what we do and what we don't need to report. So this is where, so we're, like I said, we're doing a lot of this now. We're reporting demographics now, teachers, classes, standardized test scores. Much of that data is in there, but there are many that are mandated that are new, and there are many that are mandated that are optional. But some of the ones that have people concerned are, on the left column is the kind of stuff that we're doing now. Some on the right we're doing now too. But obviously behavior records, disability, we're reporting that now, but it's again still within, it's all within the state system. Whether you trust the state of New York or not, it's not being accessed by third-party vendors. So the data dashboard will access that level 2 data that's already up there and the new data that we're requiring. And the state has contracted with 3 independent vendors. And what they will do is through this open standard, they've created these portals that parents and teachers can use to access this data. The way it's set up is there's no license fee for this year or next year. And after 15-16, if we want to continue, we would have to pay the license fee, which is about, depending on which vendor you choose, $25,000 to $35,000 a year.
Oh my God.
I will tell you that we have a parent portal now that I'm sure you know, which provides for parents all of that data already. We pay $50,000 for an entire student information system a year. The parent portal is, by rough estimate, about 10% of that. So, you know, I'm just roughly extrapolating that we're paying about $5,000 a year now for that equivalent of the parent portal of the data dashboard that we have now that's up and running that most people are using already. These are the 3 vendors that are producing the product, and I looked at all 3 of them. They're very similar. Some, you know, the functionality actually, because the state produced a specification document, the functionality of the 3 is exactly the same. They all do the same thing. They just have a different interface.
and they charge different amounts of money. So here's some of the challenges, pitfalls, concerns I have about going with one of these vendors. The first one is confusion, widespread confusion, because we have put a lot of time and energy into getting parents to use the portal, and we have students using our portal now, our Infinite Campus portal. This system, we would have to distribute IDs to parents and manage passwords for all parents that want access and for staff. And it's going to cause a lot of confusion, because the other thing about the data dashboards, remember there's those levels, level 0, 1, 2, 3. This comes out at the end of that. So the data is never going to be up to date, because it takes days to go through all those different levels. Our portal is live data. So when you go onto our parent portal, you're actually accessing our live data. If I make a change in a student record right now, when you go into the portal, it's going to show up. This data dashboard could be 2, 3, 4, 5 days old. So that could cause a lot of confusion when people look, and if they're looking in two systems and see different data. And of course, obviously it's a redundant system. We already have a system that does this. So this is InBloom. There's been a lot of concern about InBloom and what they are and who they do. The first bullet is taken right off their website. InBloom was founded with a grant from the Gates Foundation as a nonprofit organization that is supposedly designed to help districts and states personalize learning. And so they're kind of a broker. They're a middleman in between these third-party vendors and the student data.
Who's the CEO?
I don't know, but if you go to that FAQ, they'll have all their staff there. It was, I don't know. I don't remember.
okay.
No,
Give me a minute.
He's, I read about it.
That's
There's-
okay.
I think he came from Gates.
Yes,
Yeah.
Go on.
Many of their top-level people came from Gates.
Microsoft.
Gates Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Their CEO is Ivan Steichenberger.
I think the point is that he's from Gates Foundation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So ostensibly, they're a nonprofit working to improve learning for all. Obviously, people are skeptical of that, given the amount of money that was used to create this organization. So just to kind of show you where, if you decide to go ahead with the portal, or even if you don't, how this would work. So that's our existing system. InBloom would be there, taking our data out of that level 2 site. And then the Engage New York portal is a vendor, so to speak. Those 3 vendors would be going into InBloom, accessing that data through the open standard, and displaying it for parents. The next step, so that's the first step right now. The next step is, if you could imagine, when this is what they're selling, all these other third-party companies that have contracts will be able to access the InBloom data ostensibly to provide services to parents. Make sense?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Is it
And
just
we
to
have-
parents or just to schools also?
Parents directly and schools. Yes.
And we have no control over who's accessing or.
Well, once it's in InBloom, there's really 2 levels of control. If the district opts out, the data will go to InBloom anyway, but none of those vendors will be able to access it.
Oh, good, okay.
The state will still be able to access it, but it won't show up in anybody else's tools. It won't show up in any of those third parties.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is the latest that we have from SED, and no pressure, but selection of is due tomorrow.
Now, the only caveat with the 15th is that if you don't select, the state in January, February could assign you one. So you have the option of do nothing, but do nothing means something will be done to you. So
Right.
it's
Right, and if one is assigned to us, that means we then need to provide the data.
right.
So that's additional resources on our part to extract that data and upload it through the system. So there is an opting out procedure, which Joe can explain to you. It's a letter to one of the deputy commissioners at the state. But as I said, the InBloom data, the data is collected regardless. It's just a matter of who gets access to it, if the district is part of it or not. So that's really that's really it. And then I'll let Joe take it over from here with the recommendation, unless you have questions for me.
I do have a question. I'm sorry, just one. It's may just sound like a dumb one, but in Bloom, what is the purpose? I mean, this information is available. It's there. I mean, aside to, is it to facilitate services, to farm it out? I mean, the information is already available. The state has it. What is the point of this?
The state is kind of subcontracting educational services. So by doing this, they're going to allow these companies to access this data, and then, so I'll just give you a hypothetical scenario. So they go into a district's data, and they see this district has 50% of the students are second language learners. Okay, so we have this software that is great for second language learners. We're going to market it, target market it to this district, knowing the demographics of the students. Or we have a district that's has a highly transient population. We have some service or product that we can market. It's all about marketing.
There's a word for what they're doing then. Never mind.
Yes, correct.
So it's essentially well, I wasn't thinking of a nice one. So it's essentially facilitate services. You know what I mean, so that they can.
Yes. So like I said,
Okay.
In Bloom is a broker, like a middleman, between our data and these other vendors, which are for profit. So they would be looking to sell their services to parents or districts.
And just to answer Mary Pat's question, because the audience might be interested, what is the purpose of InBloom's technology, and how do districts benefit from it? With InBloom's technology in place, districts can enable teachers to more easily tailor education to the needs, skill levels for every student, engage parents more deeply in the learning process, save teachers time and schools money, and house student information more safely and securely.
Says
InBloom.
InBloom.
Says InBloom.
However,
Okay.
we're doing that essentially with our parent portal.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And it's, we have so little control. It's very
No, that's, I just, you know,
Yeah.
what the, so again, it's
But how does
farming
the-
it out and it's facilitation, so.
How does the state
theoretically.
benefit from it? I mean, looking at it when you, like the dashboard elements, they've defined a database so that they can spot patterns across large groups of students and be able to focus on problems with them.
Well,
Now, that's the three
It's suggesting resources.
The state ed benefits in the sense that they are saying students will benefit.
Here's some resources.
So they're not getting anything materially. I don't know of anything. But what their position is, state ed is doing this because they're saying that they don't have the capacity to do it. They don't have the staff, they don't have the skills. Let the private sector do it. We're going to facilitate it by giving them access to this data, and then let the private sector develop the services.
We're gonna have a consistent set of data so that you have the whole state's
Exactly.
population to look
Right.
at, so that you can spot patterns
Right.
across large groups of people and try to find solutions for them.
Exactly.
No, try to sell them stuff.
Okay.
No, I'm just trying to look at what.
Trying to look at it
underlying-
positively.
No, what the underlying intent is,
Right.
and that's it.
And the intent would be to find.
The underlying
programs
intent
that will
is personalized learning. That's
Right.
that's what they call it, personalized learning. So delivering services directly to parents through the portal or to school districts based on specific student attributes, whether it's, the whole list.
Thank you very much. Joe, you were going to take it from there?
Well, what you have is you have a recommendation or a resolution that our position is that you support it. Many of our school districts in our county and in our region have either opted out or will opt out, or they didn't have to choose to opt out because they were not eligible for Race to the Top funds. There's a pretty strong correlation in our part of the state that the poorer the districts are, the greater level of Race to the Top funding that they receive to support all of the initiatives you heard today, including the work at the elementary school. Those districts don't believe that they should risk any sort of future penalty, and no one knows what that could be, by opting out. So it's more of a financial safety net as districts are choosing to stay in with the portal or the data dashboard because they're worried that they could be harmed financially later on. Our district received around 23,000 for a 4-year implementation period. Those funds, all of those funds, as recently as last week, have been encumbered and accounted for. So if we were to pass the resolution today, we notify the state that we're opting out. We don't believe that we'll be financially harmed. And if we are, we're talking around $4,000 of funds that were unencumbered as of November 1st. So the dollar sign attached to this is $4,000 to...
We wouldn't be obligated to return
No,
it?
because we were in compliance. We did everything.
Just checking.
We did everything we
Just
were
making
supposed to
it
do in
clear.
order to
Yep.
get
No,
the
it's
funds.
not a check back. It's not accounts payable. It's we're at
Whatever
the
hasn't
most
been
dire
spent.
risk is $4,000 that we would not be eligible to spend, but it's not money we received and we would send back.
Okay.
But as recently as last week, all of our funds have been budgeted and encumbered and should cost zero.
I just want to make sure there's an understanding of what's at risk.
Yeah.
So,
And is there any other detriment to students? There's no other loss of services or anything else? No.
in fact, we pay more for it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like it would be kind of, frankly, a disaster.
Counterproductive, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
The board is going to we have discussed it. We've you can probably pretty much get it from our tone, but we would like to hear from the audience if they have any thoughts or ideas on this prior to our voting. Just come up and state your name, please.
Hi, it's Madge McKeever again. Okay. The data mining, the disclosure of any child's identifiable data without parental consent, what the New York State Education Department wants to do, it violates the state personal privacy protection law.
Correct.
So I don't know why we even took it in the beginning 4 years ago, and I wish I knew about it then. I mean, it just doesn't make sense that we took the funds.
They weren't doing that then.
This just came.
This just came out.
This
That was
just-
not. Yeah.
I had sent a request, a FOIL request, asking for the information, and I got some back from 2011 and 2012, so it's not just this year that it's coming.
Actually, why don't we let Joe and
funds is
the-
different.
So I'll let you
I
explain.
think the
From the, I'm talking about the $23,325 that we received, the grant, from the New York State Department of Education for the RTT funds.
mhm.
That was the amount, and it was supposed to be allotted over 4 years. And when I requested the FOIL, I got screenshots of some ledgers, and
Oh,
it's
it
2011 and
Definitely went back
2012.
about 4 years, but this in Bloom conversation, brand new this year.
Oh, no, I understand the in bloom, but, so there was no idea. So basically, the state never let the districts know what they were gonna be doing, what they had
Or
going
how
down the
much they were
pipe.
getting.
The original intent when Race to the Top came out was to incentivize districts to purchase systems to manage data, because some districts, let's say Hen Hud, who has used Infinite Campus in our current system, I don't know how long, but 7 years at least, we had a mechanism to report information to the state, to post it for parents to drop in and follow their children. So when Race to the Top came out, the intent at the time was to incentivize districts or use this free money to create these systems so there's more transparency in terms of student data. The closer we got to where we are today, In Bloom got involved, the specific nature of what data will be shared, where it will go to the cloud, who will have access to it. Those discussions and decisions are more recent
Relatively
than when
new.
Race to the Top came out in 2008 or 9.
Evolved into that.
Okay.
And if I can, please also know that when this first came out, districts had no idea how much money they were getting.
Right.
So it would have been in poor taste for a superintendent, like, the community would have said, well, why didn't you apply for that? You know, we could, supposedly, we could have gotten millions. We got $23,000. So nobody, not one district knew how much they were getting. So if we only, like right now you're saying, well, what did you sign up for that for? Why did you spend almost $500,000?
Exactly.
We didn't know how much we were getting.
But we would have had to spend
And
it
some
anyway.
You had to
districts,
spend it anyway, and you had to spend it anyway to get our.
you had to spend it to get, not even
The
knowing how
Common
much
Core.
we were getting.
Yeah.
So you were on a fence
Yeah.
with that one, saying, what if it was $1 million? And the community would have said to Dan way back then, well, why didn't he do that? Why didn't he do that?
I read somewhere that if a district were to accept the Race to the Top funds, that by accepting those funds, they're accepting to implement the Common Core. Now, this went back years ago.
That had to do with it as well, correct.
That did have
So
to
we
do with
thought
it.
we were gonna get a substantial amount of money to help us do that. That was part of it.
We have
Yeah.
to implement the Common Core without Race to the Top. put it that way
That's
also.
exactly, what the
Yeah.
commissioner said at the time was we have startup money. Because the state education department controls unilaterally what we teach and what grade level and how we assess.
Correct.
So what the commissioner at the time said is, look, people, we're gonna sign on to these standards, we're gonna create this sort of national approach to grade level instruction and grade level assessments, and we have free money. So we're gonna incentivize you by dangling the dollars to sign an MOU between the superintendent, various union presidents, the board, and we will allocate you free money to start working toward this implementation.
Right.
Because you are going to do it anyway because the education department can unilaterally decide. So that was the hook. The hook was, oh my God, free money, we're gonna have to do it anyway, let's use, even if it's $1, 10 cents, or $1 million, let's use the state's money. So then we all signed off, and 90-some-odd% of the districts, I think it was 96 or 98, signed off and said, okay, we will take your free money. It was after the fact that when the state looked at all the districts that said they wanted Race to the Top money, their total allocation of around $700 million, they came up with a formula. And the formula, I believe they used is similar to title funds. That it's a federal formula for Title I, Title IIA, all those sort of things. So then HenHUD received $23-some-odd thousand, which isn't going to help them implement nothing, but
About $8 a kid over the 4 years.
There you go.
$2 a year for
Yeah.
4
Correct.
years.
Right.
And to sell out the kids information like that,
Yeah.
that is ridiculous. But
And it wasn't the districts who signed on to that, it
No,
was
I
at the
understand
state
that.
level.
No, I understand it was at the
It was our governor
state
who said,
level.
we're buying into this.
right, I definitely get that. Now,
Ugh.
I know that I'm very happy as a parent that you guys are going to sign that resolution to
Prove it.
withdraw from that. But I have a question on that. So none of the funds that we received of the 23,325, we don't have to return that.
No.
We don't. Okay, we don't have to give that back. Okay, but now there's some districts. Just because we're withdrawing from it, it doesn't mean that our district is automatically going to get out of the In Bloom contract that is between New York State and In Bloom. So even though by us withdrawing, there's still a possibility that all our children's information is going to be out there in the cloud or in wherever
At
it
In
is.
Bloom.
So I know this week there's a superintendent out in Long Island, Dr. Joseph Rella, and he's in contact with the state Department of Education, and he's still waiting for an answer. But basically, so far, what the Education Department, they have indicated that it's not going to work that way. That it's not going to work, that they're going to delete our files for the kids. So my question is, what strategy can our school district get in place to keep our children's data from In Bloom? And it's something that I think we should get the whole community and all the parents involved in. If it's inundating Mr. King or whatever, this is something that is very important, and I think that the whole community should be, the HenHUD school district community should be brought into that to make sure that we try to safekeep all of those records. You know, so.
Yeah, a couple things. The state, as Matthew said, the state has a contract with In Bloom to be its data processor, massager,
Right, and they'll give it to
manipulator,
the
whatever,
third
whatever you
vendors.
want to say. So there are two different kinds of data In Bloom will have. They will have student-specific, school-specific data, or they will have de-identified data from the Hendrick Hudson School District that will go into all third graders in the state, all fifth graders in the state. By opting out, we essentially de-identify our data to the state. The state will send it to In Bloom. So the first resolution is to say to the state, we don't want student-specific data being, identified or communicated. The second communication, and we talked about this previously, is to determine what legal opportunity we have to communicate directly to In Bloom and essentially put them on the hook. Send them a copy of this resolution tonight, send them a copy of our letter to the state, and then hold In Bloom accountable to make sure they don't screw it up
I
either.
was reading up on that, and several districts have done that, and they're being told tough.
But then it
So
will be,
what can we do as
Because then it will be a
districts?
huge lawsuit, because I know I live here, but I also
Class
work in a
action
district where our
lawsuit.
superintendent did this. And he wrote through the legal process, wrote to In Bloom and said, you are under order, whatever it is, you are not allowed to distribute any information. If you do, you will be violating FERPA and you will have a class action lawsuit.
Okay.
So
hopefully that's the
so that's
direction,
gonna,
that'll be enough.
and let me tell you, and you're getting parents to inundate King John and excuse me, John King and yes, I know.
The problem,
Intentionally.
I mean, the problem we have here is that the data is de-identified, and FERPA does allow the de-identified data to be released, and FERPA also doesn't have a private right of action, so it's a little bit, that's why they were saying that they can get away with it, essentially. FERPA was amended, I think, 2 or 3 years ago to allow the de-identified data to be released in situations just like this. So that's the dilemma here that we have. De-identified data.
Well, but if it's de-identified, can you still, like on our state report cards, if you're under a certain amount of children in a grade or group, say like under
30.
10?
30 is the magic number.
What?
30.
But if you have under 30, you can't report their scores.
We shouldn't be reporting.
So I don't know what will happen in that case with, because if you only have 3 ESL students in a grade, and then you report that, even if it's de-identified, it could still point out problems. Or if you only have 5 special education students in a grade, you would have the same situation being reported. So
and the other problem is I think none of us 100% trust that the data will be 100% de-identified because
That's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
So
that's what one of the Reed
That's
people
what we
was
talked
pointing
about.
out.
Yeah. And they had talked about also taking names off of things if we could, somehow do that, when we're sending in data. I don't know if that's possible, but.
It's supposed to be, but mistakes
Right.
happen all the time.
But we were talking about in the Reed meeting, different alternatives that, different school districts, because so many school districts, as you said, have, opted out. There are some school districts that have never accepted the funds, even though they were available. That's another thing too.
Okay, I had sent in my FOIL request, I had asked for what the percentage of our budget that our school district spends on the implementation of these programs. And the response I received back that there are no records responsive to my request.
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right, I just heard, he said between 300 and 400,000, or?
Dr. Gottlieb.
That was really a rough estimate.
That was just ballpark. It's just,
Yeah.
it's not, there's no specific, it's not, I don't believe that there's specific reports for that.
Oh, we have our business guy.
What is important to know about FOIL, the way the law is structured is that the only thing we can do for you is give you data that we have. So I can give you. Hello? Hello? We cannot.
It's not working yet.
Create records. So meaning I cannot create a record of giving you the budget and then dividing, the proportion. That part I can give you the record of we received 23.
Can I request the budget under the FOIL?
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And then I
we
can do it myself.
Exactly.
No, but you
But the
still
one
But you
part.
still don't have that latest information.
Exactly. The portion, and in FOILs we cannot estimate. It has to be a written record that we have. We cannot put estimates, it's factual.
Accurate, right. So if you
Yeah.
don't have it,
It has to be
Yeah.
right.
you don't have that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for that.
All right, I think that's it.
The budget is at the library.
Oh, thank you.
No, that's how much we're spending on all this. That's
She's
what we're
looking for
talking
more
about at
specific.
Reed.
Which we have to do. Okay.
And is there going to be in one of the future meetings, we can discuss the Common Core, like in detail,
It's,
with the math?
that's been
and-
done.
I think we've done it, yeah. I mean, we're
Are there
gonna
going to
have
be
parent
any? Are there
meetings.
going to be any future ones? Because
Well, there'll be-
mommies are
it's-
waking up and it's growing.
I
The
think we-
information that people want the information. So in the near future, is there going to be?
Well, we talked about the parent nights.
Well, I would
then
also suggest looking, if, just look back at the other, the previous presentation.
Previous notes, right.
And I'm sure it'll be addressed as time goes on, because as, the evolution, how these, committees are doing, and how that's addressing the children's issues, as well as essentially how the kids are doing and how it's all being implemented. It's gonna be an ongoing discussion. I don't know that it's gonna be a formal, full blown, but it would.
But at the meet and greet, or we can sit
Yes.
You can
coffee
ask
and
them. I was just gonna
discuss,
suggest
you know,
that.
discuss this and see what's going on.
Yes.
Last night I was on a conference call with Dr. James Milgram, and he sat on the validation committee of the Common Core, and it was quite interesting. And I'd like to discuss some of those things. I mean, I can put a whole bunch of
Yes.
questions together
That'd be
for
fun.
you and send them to you, because otherwise I'd be up here for 2 hours.
Or
And
we could, perhaps if we start with me, you, and Alice, and
that'd be great.
great.
That would be great. All right, thank you guys for your time.
It's very
Thank you.
And one more thing,
interesting
there's a
to hear.
great presentation on the website from August, from our board meeting in August, that Dr. Gottlieb had done. Just giving some test examples, explaining a little bit about the evolution of the Common Core, so.
I'll look at that
Yeah, it's just,
But
it's just.
those were really elementary examples.
Elementary,
And
right.
the, your children are in high school.
I have one in middle school.
One in middle school, and the,
grade
Common
in
Core
high
is
Senior.
following. It's following into the high school now. Kids will take a Common Core algebra assessment this year. They'll be taking a Common Core ELA Regents next year, not this year. So it's moving up.
Okay, I just didn't realize it was so late.
Doctor didn't sign off on it, because he thought that
No,
for
he
the low
didn't.
grades it was okay, but the middle school adequate, 8th grade, he said it was a losing year. And high school, they were fine stopping at algebra 1. We got them to algebra 2, so there's a lot of discussion, and we can
A
have
lot.
another time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
What, you enjoy my facial expressions, what?
Good evening. John Mattis from Montrose. In anticipation of your vote, I just want to say thank you. That information is nobody's business. It doesn't do anything for the education of these kids. There's going to be ongoing costs, $25,000, $35,000 for what? And hang tough with this. Mr. Hochreiter, I know you're in that consortium of superintendents, is it there's 77? As of Tuesday night, 41 districts. Pauling was the 41st district to opt out. So we're at least the 42nd. There might have been some more. But so there's a majority there. And I'm sure that you're not hanging out there by yourself, and there's strength in numbers. And just keep fighting the good fight on this.
So, I'm just going to start
Did we
reading
approve
the
it yet?
resolution.
Okay.
Whereas the superintendent.
By the way, did we approve it yet? Sorry.
Whereas the superintendent of schools and the Board of Education of the Hendrick Hudson Central School District believe it is in the best interest of the school district and the members of its school community to withdraw its participation under the New York State Education Department Memorandum of Understanding for participation in the Race to the Top federal grant and aid program. And whereas pursuant to guidance from the New York State Education Department, the district has fulfilled the following requirements for such withdrawal. I.e. compliance with all applicable state or federal laws and regulations, including the requirements for education law section 3012-C and subpart 30-2 of the Regents rules, filing the currently unsubmitted final expenditure report, annual program report, and the 15-12 quarterly report for the period ending September 15, 2013. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Hendrick Hudson School District, upon the recommendation of Joseph E. Hochreiter, Superintendent of Schools, hereby withdraws from participation in the Race from the Top program, nullifying the school district's memorandum of understanding with the New York State Education Department effective November 15, 2013, and directs the district clerk to give due notice of this resolution to the New York State Education Department Race to the Top Performance Management Office. So the recommendation by Joseph E. Hochreiter is that the board approve the resolution to withdraw from Race to the Top program data dashboard requirement. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Very good.
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 What'd you say?
Even Enrique said beautiful.
It's rare we can make a little bit of a difference, but it's good when we can.
And get an
So
applause.
that brings us to the discussion of the 2013-14 Board of Education goals. Granted, this is we're a little late here. We've been doing a lot of other things. But what I would like to do is maybe just go through the goals as they were provided by, do you guys
She
need
sent them
copies?
to us.
I think I have extra copies here.
It's not up, is it up here? No.
We have
I have
all-
extra copies anyway, so, this might be the draft though, so.
Did you email them?
Roseanne did, but I had copied them
Roseanne.
from something else, for something else. Charles, did you need a copy or?
Should already put on.
Again, this
Roseanne's
is, she did send them.
You want one?
And this is what was discussed.
These
at
are
our
just the
retreat.
draft,
Yeah.
this is so,
I know
but
I
again,
had
it's,
them, but
essentially, the, the goals at this point, we look at our academic goals, and I apologize, I can give you, oh,
Okay,
thank
great.
you. Oh, all this technology. We can wait a minute, but essentially, we have 3 separate topics. It's our academic goals,
Yes.
our fiscal goals, and our governance goals. And it's, we have essentially, in each case, 4 to 6 goals and measures of success for each one. I don't expect we should even hope to come to any conclusions this evening, but maybe look at them and just see if our goals from last year are things that we want to carry over, if, where we wish to tweak it or change it for the coming year. Much of it is going to stay the same. For example, maximize, develop, and support the potential for each student, or passing a bond or a budget. But we can look at each one and just see if there's anything that people would wish to, just update and make it a little bit more current. You got it? Oh, it's in the cloud?
It's in the cloud.
Didn't our consultants, when we did our board retreat, tell us
Say to
we
get
had too
down,
many?
yeah.
Yes,
They
we
said
did.
we had too many, so, but again, a lot of these are, and they discussed, making them quantifiable as, just, there we go. So if we can,
What do I do?
click away. So if we start with our academic goals, which is the first, maximize, develop, and thank
What are
you.
we supporting too? I have, where are we?
It says 12.
Which, just the, I
I
wanna
think
make
so,
sure I don't
yeah.
block it. Okay, perfect. Maximize, develop, and support the potential of each student. I think reading this would just be a nightmare for everyone. But, after my resolution, I'm tired. But,
Thank you, Mary Pat.
Yeah, number 4, we might.
everybody can read here.
reconsider.
But is there, I don't know if you'd like to just, take a look and see if there's anything that, strikes you as either, that we'd like to pay a little bit more attention to, a little bit less, or even focus and hone it down a little bit.
Yeah, number 6, I'd like to say, insert, improve the college and career-ready
Oh, no, no,
graduation
no, no.
rate, just to align with
I don't know what that means.
college and career. That's what our commissioner keeps saying, we need to improve our college and career-ready graduation rate.
We're not getting them ready for careers.
We
That's
don't
the
like
college
listening
job.
to
We
him
don't get them
anyway.
ready for careers.
Well, yes and no. We're
No, I
teaching, giving
know.
them the foundation so that they can graduate and move on to
I
that
don't
next.
include that.
I think you have to possibly put something in here on the Common Core if that's,
All right. So you're suggesting a reference to the Common Core?
you
Charles,
have
you're
that.
suggesting including something about the college and career readiness
Just the
as well.
words, improve the college and career-ready graduation rate.
Okay.
No.
Well, we can discuss this further. What we're just talking about is just things that what I would like is we can discuss it now, where we can reference things such as how you would wish to put the Common Core in, how you would choose to include
We have
college
that.
and career readiness, and how you would choose to determine a measure of success for them. And what I'd like to do is look at that for all 3, the fiscal, the academic, and the governance.
Right, well, when you look at the measures of success here, we said that, successfully implement the New York State Reform Agenda.
So it is
Common Core learning
referenced.
standards,
It's in our
yeah.
measures of success.
It's referenced, it's basically what you're suggesting is that these other 6 academic goals feed into accomplishing that. But again, we're just reviewing right now, the fiscal goals.
Wait, I want to stay on academic. I've got,
What else would you like to?
I don't know if you want to call it an academic goal or a measure of success, but I'd like all students to be proficient or at 3 or above at grade level within 4 years of entering?
I don't
the
think you
district?
can do, I think
I don't
that's
know.
so
It's not
unreasonable.
possible.
Especially
That's
for
why
a
most of
saying
us
every
went
child
down.
is the same. They're
No
not the
child left
same.
behind
No,
went
I'm
down.
saying
can't
every
do
kid
that.
can succeed. How do we get them to be, what do we got now? It's 4, 3, 2, and 1?
Yeah, but success, Charles, is different for each child. I mean,
I understand that,
I'm
but
just
we're
saying, no,
saying-
I'm saying a child who comes in reading at grade level, I mean, a child who's, I would like to see, if there's a child who's especially capable, I would like to see him above, going, and if there's some children that really are going to, they're always gonna struggle, and they're not necessarily always gonna hit a benchmark at the time that they're supposed to, no matter how much time they're given.
I understand.
And I'm
that.
not-
I'm
How
saying
about
that
he
if
tries
we,
growth in a year's time? You know,
within 4 years to get to, by the time.
So you're saying
we're-
a child who comes in 3rd grade, by 7th grade, you want him at a 7th grade level?
Yes.
What
And
if-
I'm saying a kid that enters our school as a kindergartner by the 3rd grade should be on grade level.
but not every time.
What is your, but what if?
He's cute, isn't that cute? He's so cute.
Stop.
Doesn't happen.
But some children, it's, you know what, it's gonna take them more than if they
So,
come.
but if we don't set that standard, how does anybody else?
That is a goal. We don't
It is
come into-
absolutely a goal,
It's
but.
our-
But we don't come into our classrooms wishing kids fail. I mean, we come and say, I want this kid to improve. I want them to get hundreds. I mean, that's just like
But
of course you want a child to.
everything drives off the goals that we set, and resources are
Yeah, but
spent
you don't wanna
according to the
fail at all
goals.
those
So how do you
goals.
get every child to be successful?
Well, I think there's a difference between
English and math.
saying, you'd like every child to be successful than saying you want every child to be, obtaining a 3 on a standardized state test. I think there's a huge amount of difference between those two statements. I think all of us can say very strongly that we want all children to be successful within,
Look what number
a
one
certain
says.
amount of time. But I don't
Right?
think when you start
that?
putting in
That's what number one
that you
says.
want them to be reading on grade level or, obtaining a 3 on a state test, then you're saying that that's the important thing that you're looking at. To me, individual success is much more important. And defining each child should
On
have
math
a
and English.
defined measure of success.
Well, I think
And
also.
I see, the thing that I see is the kids that are behind stay behind. And so if we can't get them
Not
to grade level.
necessarily.
I don't necessarily agree with you, but, what I would like is that, this is something that we can, what I would like is that, to think about it, and maybe, Charles, you have your approach, and Lori and Barbara, especially as teachers, you guys have yours. What I would like to see is if you guys can think about it for the next 2 weeks, and when you come back, maybe find some place where there's a common ground,
goal.
that you guys can both, that matches both if,
But
that
my
would work for
question,
both
doesn't
of
number
you.
1 take that into account? Maximize and develop the potential of each kid.
It does, and
And everybody's potential is different and shouldn't be placed on an English and math grade. Some kids can sing an hour every day and they're gonna still be stinky
I
singers.
think we wanna see progress. I mean, maybe we wanna see a year's growth in a year's time.
but again,
Not
so.
be a
if-
year's
Well,
growth, though.
possible.
Well, I don't
What if you have a
even
special
think
needs kid who
it's
just
that, but I think it's
Mm-hmm.
how are we, considering, measuring, that a student is meeting with success. And to me, it's in such different ways. You have children who are coming in to, this new Common Core. And it may take children much more than even 3 years to be able to internalize all the different methods, all the different terminology. It's a much more rigorous curriculum. And that's just for the average and above average children. So imagine what our,
Child coming in behind the 8 ball.
right, other students are going through, and how much pressure they're putting on themselves and, just to maintain what they're doing in the classroom, not necessarily even being what, a 3 on a state test. And how much pressure we're putting on our teachers,
I'm not
as
looking
well.
at shirking, I'm not saying like that to say not to do
No.
that is shirking any responsibility, but I'm just saying I believe that people,
Right.
I think some kids
Never
are,
thought.
they just don't learn at the same rate. Some kids in 4 years, you see 7 years progress. Other students in 4 years, you don't see 4 because they have their own set of issues and with what they might have come in with as well, concern, and where they might have, if they were a few years behind even. We can't control where they came from as well. So What I would like to do is just
We'll
come
talk
up with
about
something
it.
that, yes,
Right.
that we can talk about, that's something,
Absolutely.
you know, that we can all come to
Feel
some
comfortable
conclusion,
with.
and that absolutely does take into to
Because
consideration
I know what you're saying.
that improvement.
I understand what you're saying.
Whether it's a
I'm
year's.
just, I'm thinking about in the long run, what these kids go through.
So, if we can just think about that and maybe whether it's a year's growth in a year's time, or what the understanding is. And a comparable measure of success. Fiscal goals,
Yes, Dr. Gottlieb, too.
fiscal goals as well.
That's our goal.
I don't know that that's really going to change. I guess if I have to change this, that would help. I think right now, I think it's really quite, I think it's pretty much the game plan that we've had to stay with. We can make additional adjustments to pass the bond.
Sorry. Okay.
Am I interrupting you?
Well said.
I'm like a teacher here. But I mean, I don't believe our fiscal goals have really changed much. I mean, it's absolutely to a system that runs smoothly, no surprises, and absolutely transparent and explainable. And, that people are comfortable with, that people can support. And the support for the programs is actually listed in the measures of success. But again, I would like to look at that a little bit, and we can, am I doing something? It's you, Joe. And we could discuss that at the next meeting.
He's trying not to be heard right
But
now.
if we can please, look at that for the next meeting as well.
I don't know, just off the back, you know how we always talk about, Charles, like in facilities, we need to come up with a plan?
We need a long-range infrastructure.
Does that go
plan.
under our fiscal?
I would think so.
Make sure we develop our long-range plan to maintain our stuff.
I don't have that.
Long-range plan for facility maintenance,
Yes.
facility building, okay.
Well, we have the number 6.
So you're missing that.
Actually,
The
we've got.
fiscal goals.
Oh, geez, I'm not even looking, I'm
The
sorry.
one that
I
you
didn't read
handed out,
number
Mary
6.
Pat, doesn't have.
Yeah, it's missing a
That was a
bunch of
draft.
names.
That's why it's the draft.
This one has present the
six.
community with a
Yeah, we
long-range
need to-
plan.
No, this
for
was just the
infrastructure.
draft, this was a previous,
Maintain buildings and grounds will be, all
If you-
building grounds will be, safe,
Are you
clean,
on,
academic.
Charles, you're looking at the measures of success? There you go.
Okay, all right. This one didn't have that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, that's why Roseanne sent it over.
I got Carol.
Okay.
No, what you
So
get,
it's
the black and white one is the draft.
Yeah.
So, and our governance goals for the next topic. And again, I'm not sure how much is going to.
I don't think we want that one.
Okay, I think we can.
I think we can take number 6
Can we take out
off.
6?
Yes.
Hopefully.
Still searching.
All
Number
right.
4 also.
Well, again, again, Matthew's made a lot of headway in number 4 as well.
Thank you,
Getting
Matthew.
green with our technology.
Could we combine 2 and 3?
Absolutely, because I think
That
it's
could-
pretty much, it's redundant, so,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That gets us down, because we want to
there
get.
you go.
I'd like to
Um,
have 3 per.
And,
per. Okay.
Is the recommendation.
That's
So-
4 was,
but, again, this was just a cursory, just a review right now. What I'd like everybody to do is if,
Homework.
again, come in 2 weeks so that maybe we can discuss this a little bit, more in depth, and we can make, whatever changes so that we can, update this to 13-14. With all the other things going on, this one sort of, doing this specifically took a bit of a backseat, unfortunately, to actually write it down, but, but I would like to resolve this certainly by half year, so if you can just please look at it, and we'll discuss it at the next meeting. That would bring us to, well, we had audience comments. Is there anything else people would like to add? Okay, are there any board comments, any new business? Okay, that would, just a reminder that there is a meet and greet this Saturday at 8:30 at Dunkin' Donuts. Please, Mr. Hochreiter will be there for.
Please show up.
Show up. And our next meeting will be 2 weeks from last night. It'll be a Tuesday, November 26th. Obviously moving it back because of Thanksgiving. So hopefully we'll see you then. And other than that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
No, they just rescheduled.
And
the River
all in
meeting, so I
favor?
could go on Tuesday.
Lori, do you want to leave?
When?
Now.
Have to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Me, yes.
There you go. Have a good evening.
Thank you.